Hey, everybody, welcome to today's edition of Notre Dame Daily. I'm Pete Mulroy, and there you have it. We have our quarterback. After a long and very legitimate, by the way, battle for the top quarterback spot in South Bend, Marcus Freeman, as you now know, announced Tuesday that redshirt freshman C.J. Carr is going to be his guy when the Irish open the season August 31st against the Miami Hurricanes. Now, Carr earned the job by putting together a strong camp, and while his talent is undeniable, I think we'd all agree, it was the ability to shake off mistakes and rebound with purpose that ultimately earned the trust of the coaching staff. Both Carr and some of the Irish coaches spoke about that not just a couple days ago. And as he continues to build his skills and the strong relationships with Denbrock, Gino Guidugli, obviously Marcus Freeman, and so on and so forth, Carr's now going to lead an Irish offense that has serious expectations this season. Having never started a game or thrown a pass on the collegiate level, the first game as Notre Dame's leader won't be easy, as again, the Irish are on the road against the aforementioned Hurricanes. But with perhaps the nation's best offensive line and undeniably the best running back room in America, as well as a wide receiver department that is incredibly deep, and the best one Marcus Freeman has had, you've heard me say this time and again, in now going into his fourth season at the helm of the Notre Dame program, Carr absolutely has the supporting cast to work this Irish offense. I think that's a fact. The great thing about both Carr and Kenny Minchey, who's now obviously going to be QB2, is that each possesses the ability to push the ball down the field, and that's huge. While the Irish have certainly had good QBs in recent seasons, you want to talk about Deshaun Kaiser, Tommy Rees, Everett Golson, Ian Book, whatever it might be, they really haven't had a passer with the steady ability to drive the ball down with big plays since Jimmy Clausen. I think that's fair. C.J. Carr brings that, and his mobility is a bit underrated too. While this does not come as a shock that Carr got the nod, there was a good amount of momentum around Kenny Minchey winning this battle. That stuff was legitimate, and you saw a lot of that in the media. It's easy to pound on people, but what I can say to this is some of the reports that said Minchey's probably the leader, whatever outlets in addition here you might be following. All I can say is this. When I do this show, and again, I love it. I've loved connecting with many of you, even the ones who love to call me clowns. Believe me, I get a kick out of it. I am a clown, but for different reasons. There is a deep belief that I have. You got to respect your audience. You got to be transparent with your audience. There's a lot of people in the Notre Dame media who've been doing this a hell of a lot longer than me. And I was having some conversations and hearing some things that did point from legitimate sources, not things that you make up or you see something and run with it. That's BS journalism. That's nonsense. That this was a true quarterback battle by every definition of the word. And ultimately, you want to consider it an 11th hour type deal, depending on how you viewed the battle, what you read, what you heard, what you discussed, any thoughts you might have had on it. The ultimate decision to be more comfortable with one or the other went to C.J. Carr, and it was a little bit different from maybe the conversations we had last week. I know that, and I still maintain it, I probably would have felt more comfortable with Kenny Minchey. He does have more time in Mike Denbrock's offense, given the fact that C.J. Carr missed that substantial amount of time last year, and I don't think we can undersell that. But again, as I said last week, if the press came out and the headline was C.J. Carr wins Notre Dame's QB1 job, my response would be awesome. If it said Kenny Minchey wins Notre Dame QB1 job, my response would be awesome. Did I have a preference? Kenny Minchey, sure. He's QB2 now. C.J. Carr is here. And I do remember going back a few seasons when, and I said this a few weeks ago, when Malik Zaire was under center for Notre Dame, got hurt after Notre Dame's thrashing that season against Texas. Deshaun Kaiser came in. At the time, Brian Kelly, even prior to the Zaire injury, was talking about his quarterback room, and he said, look, if something, God forbid, happened to Malik, Deshaun is ready to roll, come in and run the offense. And the rest was history. He had a really great career at Notre Dame and wound up being a second-round draft pick to the Green Bay Packers. So that turned out to be true. I do think Notre Dame has two legitimate options. I think there was a huge reason why they weren't serious about going into the portal, because they loved the room they had even without Steve Angeli. And now that includes the freshman Blake Hebert and obviously the veteran and returning to the room, Tyler Buckner, who's going to play a big role here as well, not just as a mentor, but someone who's going to have an impact on the field. He'll probably be the holder on special teams, which you can get very, very creative with those things. But the veteran leadership that he brings to that room is going to help all of them, especially C.J. Carr as he begins his role as a starting quarterback on the road in a legendary matchup against the always hated Miami Hurricanes. Nonetheless, I think this shows us that Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman, obviously, again, really value the talent they have in that room. And because the announcement came with only a few days prior to the start of the season, you have to figure that Marcus Freeman would have felt comfortable with either guy under center at this time. However, C.J. Carr is the guy, and that's just fine. You can have your opinions on that, but August 31, starting quarterback under center against the Miami Hurricanes, Sunday night, prime time, C.J. Carr. Getting back to our schedule preview, the third game of the season after a road opener against Miami, home opener 2 weeks later against Texas A&M, the Irish will invite Purdue to South Bend for the 89th edition in this rivalry. This is a Purdue team coming off an abysmal 1-11 campaign. Now under the direction of first-year head coach Barry Odom, they're in full rebuild mode. Odom won 19 games across the last 2 seasons at UNLV before coming to West Lafayette to replace Ryan Walters, who is now the defensive coordinator at the University of Washington. You talk about some of the weaponry Purdue has. It's a complete makeover from the bottom up. Ryan Brown's going to lead the charge at QB for the Boilers after serving in a backup capacity last season. Devin Mockabee is going to feature as perhaps the best weapon on that side of the ball out of the backfield. Malachi Thomas, who's a transfer from Virginia Tech, is going to give some nice support in the backfield, as this is going to be a Purdue team, and you'll see it not just against Notre Dame. It'll be their theme of the season, that they're going to lean heavily on its ground attack. Up front is where Purdue is basically brand new, as its offensive line is going to have 4 starters up front who arrived via the transfer portal. And if you take those 4 offensive linemen, plus transfer receivers Nitro Tuggle and Charles Ross, and Purdue projects to have 6 new starters from the open market. Defensively, 7 new starters, all via the portal as well, will now shoulder the load. You got Auburn transfer defensive tackle TJ Lindsey, good football player, former UNLV linebacker Manny Powell, who played for Odom in Vegas, and a good-looking safety in Hershey McLaurin, who arrives after spending time at both West Virginia and Houston. They'll be sort of the focal point of a brand-new defense for Odom and company. Overall, this Purdue team is going to look incredibly different, especially when you consider the fact that a whopping 10 players left the school from the secondary alone. Another UNLV transfer, as a matter of fact, Tony Grimes, comes over with Powell and Odom, and he's expected to basically pace the back end of a defense that has got to gel and mesh quickly because, again, they do not have an easy schedule, including this game for Notre Dame in South Bend. There's not a ton here. And you don't say this to be negative or mean it. It is what it is, to be overly optimistic about. But if the new additions here for Purdue are able to mesh well together early on, Barry Odom is certainly the type of coach who can instill a positive culture in fairly quick fashion. For the Irish in this one, allowing their first and second level defenders, the D-line and the linebackers, to focus on shutting down the Boiler run game is going to open the door for the secondary to be aggressive, take chances, make plays against a Purdue passing game that's got an abundance of questions in its own right. So you don't want to call anything a walkover. I know it was 66-7 or whatever it was, Notre Dame last year in West Lafayette, coming off the Northern Illinois loss. It was a sellout crowd out there. They were all jacked up. Purdue won their season opener, had a bye week to get ready for Notre Dame, and then Riley Leonard just runs right through them last season. I'm not saying this is going to be a bloodbath, but reading between these tea leaves here and just this sort of mini preview of Purdue, I don't anticipate, and crazier things have happened as we know, Notre Dame having too much of a problem in this one. But we've said that before, so alas, we will see. Today's spotlight player, KVA, 6'3", 230-pound linebacker who enjoyed a solid debut season last year for the Irish. Kingston Viliamu-Asa is a really good player. Appeared in 14 contests a year ago, 37 tackles, 9 of those solo, 2 quarterback hurries, a sack, a pick, and a pass breakup. Pro Football Focus, as a matter of fact, if you're into that sort of thing, rated KVA, actually, as the highest grader among freshman Power 4 linebackers who played 300-plus snaps, which is actually pretty significant and interesting. Considered perhaps here the most talented linebacker on the Irish, which is heavy praise considering he plays alongside the likes of Drake Bowen, Jalen Sneed, and Jaden Owsbury. KVA brings incredible positional versatility as he's able to play multiple linebacker spots, and that's big. Jaden Owsbury, very similar. We talked about him the other day in those different roles, in different sub packages, Will, Mike, whatever it might be. When you have that versatility, and again, I've used that word a lot on shows the last month or so. That's because that's how Notre Dame recruits. They want even the guys they bring in via the portal. Can you do multiple things? Can you play multiple places on the offensive line? Can you play in the nickel? Can you play in the slot? Can you go out wide? Can you flop from a rover position and play the different linebacker spots? You got that versatility in guys like Osbury, even a Bryce Young up on that defensive line. KVA fits that mold as well. I expect this season, because of that versatility, he can shred blocks. He moves very fluid. His movement skills are incredible. I would expect we'll see a lot of him overall, yes, but as a third down rusher, given his ability to beat opposing linemen, not just strength, he's got the speed and quickness. Just a physically gifted athlete, and one who, like many others on his team, possesses an incredible intelligence for the game. Irish linebacker coach Max Bulla has raved about the complete package KVA brings, and with loads of support all around him on the Notre Dame defense, as you know, I do think we are in store for a true breakout campaign. Notre Dame's got a lot of them. If it's not a Bryce Young or an Osbury or a Boubacar Traore, KVA's right here, and you say, well, who's the guy you're looking forward to watching the most at any position on either 11, offense, defense, or even on special teams? KVA is going to be the answer that a lot of people give when presented with that question, because he's just another one of these guys that is truly gifted at being able to bring versatility, bring the motor, bring the drive, play with fire, and that unbelievable intelligence to know your surroundings and what needs to be done at a given moment. Love the kid, super intelligent, great athlete. I think he's going to have a hell of a year on this Irish defense. And just quickly to wrap today's show, you get some more love for Jeremiah Love and Leonard Moore. They earned selection to the Associated Press Preseason All-America first team. Love comes into his junior season looking to have another monster campaign off the heels of last year. Legitimate Heisman Trophy contender, as we know. He was already named the Walter Camp Preseason All-American and to the watch list for the Maxwell and the Doak Walker Award. The 17 rushing touchdowns last season, a couple of receiving scores, over 1,100 yards on the ground. I mean, you've got, there's 21, 22 players all-time in Notre Dame history that have rushed for 1,000-plus yards in a season. Jay Love is one of them, and he did it by averaging nearly 7 yards a clip last season on the ground, which is wild. You talk about Moore. He was also a 25 preseason All-America from Sporting News and the Walter Camp watch list for the Lott Impact Trophy, Nagurski Trophy, Bednarik Award. The list goes on and on. Freshman Defensive Player of the Year a year ago, freshman All-American, and here he is with Jay Love on the preseason Associated Press first team All-American squad, which is high praise for, obviously two of the best players on Notre Dame, but two of the best players in America, regardless of position. So it's great to see that. I thought when you looked at these teams, I think Penn State had three guys on combination of the first and the second team. So Notre Dame's got two right here. I think you might be able to see some more guys toward the end of the season earn their way into that All-America discussion. Emil Wagner is someone that stands out. Billy Shrout, perhaps Anthony Knapp. You got guys like Drake Bowen, Jalen Sneed, Christian Gray. I mean, there's a lot of talent all over the field for Notre Dame, and we could absolutely, somebody like Malachi Fields, given the weaponry in support of him on the outside, and now with somebody like C.J. Carr, or even if there are changes made with Kenny Minchie, you got options that can shove the ball to your receivers and move that rock down the field, which is big. So I think there are going to be a couple more guys involved with the Irish program that are going to be in talks for All-American nods, first, second, third team, rookie team, whatever it might be, in addition to just Jay Love and Leonard Moore. So big congratulations goes out to them as the list of accolades continues to go on and on for those two young men. We got our guy, C.J. Carr, QB1, August 31, the opener for Notre Dame. I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Hope you enjoy the rest of yours. Have a great one. And as always, go Irish.